All right, traders, welcome to today's end of day recap. This is Christian from Strike Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, August 13. You got a really nice trending day for the day. Q's finishing up 2.5%. We'll talk about where these are, where the performance, the finishing performance for the day, where that lines up on the charts. SPY finished up 1.6%, and IWM came on strong there towards the middle to the end of the day, finishes up about the same as the S&P, up 1.6%. We did have a catalyst type trade on today for the small caps, which did nicely. I actually went out a little bit longer than I did the last time that we had the CPI and the PPI report. Remember last month we had the CPI report out first. This time we have the PPI report out first, and that coming in less than expected. So we'll see if we get the same type of result for tomorrow. Of course, we don't know what the data is going to be, but obviously, pretty good to see the first thing out. Oh, I'm having a problem with Bloomberg, so that's probably why the screen isn't coming up. So one of the things too that I would say, which I think is encouraging, is to see the VIX out of that backwardation a situation that we've been in for the last week or so, and back into more of a contango type market. Notice that the pricing of the VIX gets expensive around the or volatility gets expensive around the election. I think that's normal, and then it's now back to upward sloping as you go further out, with the VIX around like an 18.8, and currently the VIX dropped all the way down to 18.2. Remember, on Friday it dipped down to 20 and back down to 18. So some of these things, of course, seem a little bit hindsight 2020 when you think about the yen carry trade, and it was really a situation of positioning, and that's sometimes why we get sell-offs, is that complacency and overcrowding of some trades, and then kind of a snapback reaction. And I think that all in all, one of the things that I mentioned on the very night where things were looking a little bit volatile, I said, hey, this is probably just the second pullback that we're going to get this year, because you get odds are you get somewhere between 2 to 3 on average pullbacks in the market. So this is number two. We got the first one in towards the end of March and into April, and this is number three. So again, not to say that it's a crystal ball with any of this stuff, but typically you are going to see a few pullbacks during the year. Risk disclaimer in front of you: everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Pretty much, I'll go over some of the sectors, but pretty much risk on. Clean energy has been a real dog lately. It's been underperforming massively, so you get that snapback rally today, up 5.3%. Solar too, up 3.6%, and the semis, which had a huge day today, up 4.1%. NVIDIA, nice to see follow through there. A couple names that I've been involved in. I did get long NVIDIA yesterday. Also, I've had some ARM on calls and stock, I have a call spread on end stock, and then a few other groups. Of course, tech did very well today too. That was up 3% for the day. Cyber stocks I see up 2. A few other areas such as consumer discretionary was also up 2.5%. So I mentioned, where does this leave us? Well, we've rallied. We were decently below the value area for the month. We've come up all the way basically right to the bottom of the value area for the month, and we're at some resistance. Now, it's really tough to tell whether or not that resistance, so that we're going to get a rejection there. We need more information, obviously, because you have a full green bar today. So it's tough to say. Like, normally, if you would see like the start of a rejection where we kind of touch that level and then we pull back intraday, but we closed right there. So, it's going to be an interesting day tomorrow, given the where the price action closed at. Also, when we look at the 1 hour chart for S&P, also note that there's a virgin point of control that could also need to be taken out, right? That is just the point of control from last week's value area. You're going to see the same thing in the Qs. However, the Qs took out that level. So that level is about 60 basis points up. That's 545.48. The Qs, when we look at this, they were and they are still further below that value area for the month. Right? They've had a decent, bigger distance. Remember, the Qs were down 3 weeks in a row, so they were up, barely turned green for last week, and then we've got some follow through here. So we're checking back into the 20-day moving average further, which is another 1.8 up, 8% higher. Would be the bottom of the value area for the month. Again, if you're not familiar with the value areas, what they are is all of the volume at price activity from the previous period. So we're on the daily chart. This August value area is based on all the July activity. Right, and that becomes a resistance area, which is about 1.6%. And as I mentioned, the S&P is already there. Also, we took out this virgin point of control. That is, like I said, the point of control from last week's value area, and really no hesitation there. We, of course, could get a check back. That's something also that you could kind of think about as well, right? And then, of course, IWM, which typically moves more on a CPI day. So I'm not sure if I would count it for today, but back to its 50-day moving average, and also closed, I think, a little bit above the value area for the week. Remember, this looked different than the S&P and the Qs, as I've gone over in my morning note. But as long as this stays above 207.02, then that's in good shape. And I did take some profit targets on my long IWM call spread that matures on Thursday. All right, so that's what we've got. One other thing to note, maybe why you're not going to get as much, like even let's say that the CPI report comes in, like the PPI did report today, a little bit less than expectations. You may not get the same type of move because there's not as many shorts that are in the small caps as there were back a month ago when we saw this move like this. Right, there was a heavy short position that speculators had in Russell futures. They have since covered that position, so that may be why you're not going to get such a you know momentum move to the upside. You just don't have as much short interest in there. All right. Next, I think we'll talk about the semiconductors. We'll bring up this chart. I think this is also pretty interesting because this did make it into the value area. I was looking at this. We were talking about Taiwan Semiconductor towards the end of the day in our trading room, and the way that I would kind of look at this, like if this is a name or if you've got a similar name that you want to get long, breaking the 50-day moving average, you could certainly start a position, even though it's obviously already had a big move, with the idea that you're going to add back if it maybe checks back to that bottom of value, which is a decent distance away, or even halfway in between. Right? And you can kind of think about that because you do have support down at 161.70. NVIDIA, I talked about this in the trading room, also talked about this on the internet saying, hey, they're going to report in a couple earnings. My favorite trade, or one of my favorite trades, because it's easy, I like easy trades, is looking for a run into an earnings report. Right. This is obviously a name that has a lot of FOMO, a lot of call activity. So I'm playing this right now for a move into its earnings report. And I've taken a few targets already in the trade since I put it on yesterday because it's had some nice momentum. Right. Another one is ARM. ARM did make has been kind of grinding above here, right? This is one that we've seen a lot of option positioning in. Obviously, it's working, but has been a little bit difficult, and you can kind of pick your spots to be able to add. The beginning of the day, not so much today, but we've seen a lot of the beginning of the day. This name really comes out strong out of the gate, and then it kind of fizzles. So it does give you that opportunity to take a target right in the beginning of the day and then add some back if you are positioning in the name that way. Starbucks obviously was I don't know if I've ever seen such a big move on a CEO change. Really interesting. Congrats if you played this one to the long side. I did not. We've seen some option positioning in it, but it's been a tough go until now. So if you were patient and you stuck with it, congratulations to you. It's funny because in my pre-market video yesterday morning, Monday morning, I was talking about I'm more of a trend trader, so I stick to things that are in uptrends. But things like a Starbucks or things like a Nike, that if you've got if you've got the right time horizon, then I what I said in yesterday's video is I don't see anything wrong with going into a name that you think is going to be around for a long time and has got a good brand name, good business that just needs some turning around a little bit. And lo and behold, I did not put on either one of those positions, Nike or Starbucks, but you're seeing that you've got one hell of a move today. So congrats, to the longs for that one. Other names that I wanted to kind of cover a little bit. I did a little bit of substituting. I've talked about how there's been some good strength in the insurance names. I got out of Progressive today and flipped into Trumpanion, which is more life insurance. Nice move today, looking for a move up to 3.9%. In addition to that, I still think I'm seeing a lot of strength in the software group and and some growth names. Upstart had another nice day. Watch this 37.44 level. That's a big level for it to get through, but certainly something to keep an eye on. 3M is another name too that I've been watching. Some of these names that had a real good earnings reaction and have kind of settled in like this. I went long today. That's the first move back above its 5-period moving average in a couple weeks. So I could go through more and more names here, but I'll kind of I'll keep it somewhat simple. Here's what our watch list looks like for the week. We've got a lot of names that have triggered. I also added a decent amount of names. Bitcoin, maybe I'll go through that chart and we'll talk about Coinbase a bit for a second here. But here's Bitcoin. Making a nice move. Once again, look at where it is, by the way, right into that bottom of the value area. So that's 60,860, right? And very close to, it just barely closed in there. So I would wait for one more day. But one name I'm watching is Coinbase. It's been a beaten up name. And for something like this, of course, you could go long versus the 200-day moving average. Or if you want to look at something here on the 1 hour chart, smaller time frame, as long as it stays above 197, I think that you could try a long here. And if it breaks in there or really breaks this line, that would be your get out situation. A few other names too. This was a name I was long, Zeta. I got rid of it yesterday. It was a little bit weak, but maybe it was kind of a shakeout type candle. Right, this is another small cap software name. As I mentioned, we're seeing a lot of strength in this group. Continuing to kind of grind higher here a little bit and stay back above that 5-period moving average. What else I could cover? Maybe we'll have time to cover one more. CWAN. This is a name I got long today. Again, another name that had strong earnings. It's almost like that 3M chart, right? Nice move up, digestion, and then I would kind of wait for it to reclaim that 5-period moving average, which it did today. All right, so I did add a couple trades that I've been watching for a bit, and we'll see how it plays out tomorrow with the CPI report, and also knowing that we're kind of right into some resistance in the S&P and have made a really nice move so far. So, again, I think, and last second message will be, keep your discipline in this market. We've come a decent way in a small amount of time. We're going to have to battle through some overhead resistance at this point. So I think you have to stay disciplined and you don't want to get, too over the tips of your skis with risk at this point. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.